Canyon's new Neuron ONfly raises two big questions that I want to answer. Does it show the future of electric mountain bikes and indeed mountain biking in general? Could it be the most important lightweight eMTB yet? Electric mountain bikes are currently split into two distinct camps, the so-called lightweight, lower power types that aren't all that lightweight, and the bigger, heavier, full power variety. Given current battery technology, you can't have the best of both worlds. A lightweight bike with the same power and range of a bigger motor and battery just doesn't exist. Even if it did, surely that bike wouldn't be cheap either. This brings me back onto the Canyon Neuron ONfly, the brand's first lightweight eMTB. Powered by Bosch's SX Motor with a huge 600 watts of assistance, could this be the bike that bridges the two categories while not costing the earth and bring us closer to that holy grail of lightweight power and range? Before I get into any tech details though, I want to talk about the price. I rode the CF9 model, which cost £6,699 or €6,999. But the cheapest CF7 model costs just £4,649 or €4,849, and it's also the only bike that will be available from the range in the US, but we're yet to have US pricing at this time. Don't get me wrong, that is still an awful lot of cash. Whether you agree or disagree is up to you, but I actually think that's very respectable for a high-performance electric mountain bike, especially one with a carbon frame like the Neuron ONfly. Compared to Specialized Turbo Levo SL alloy of £5,250, it's actually pretty impressive. From the Neuron ONfly range, if I were putting my money where my mouth is, the CF7 would be the model I'd choose. With that in mind, I'm going to focus on the heart of the bike, the frame, battery and motor, as these are shared across the whole range, regardless of the bits and bobs bolted to it. First up, let's put that Bosch SX motor and battery under the spotlight. The Neuron ONfly isn't the first, or indeed only bike to feature Bosch's latest SX motor, but the headline stats are impressive. Unlike other lightweight eMTB motors like TQ's HPR50 or Fazwa's Ride 60, the SX packs the same maximum assistance of 600 watts as the bigger, heavier Bosch Performance Line CX. While torque is reduced to 55 Nm from 85, it still packs a big punch. I only had a brief time on the bike on the launch in Germany, but I was very impressed with the power it delivers. It gives a proper kick and is almost enough to keep up with heavier bikes with more torque on climbs. Almost, but not quite. For most riders though, I do think it's got more than enough poke. I rarely use the boost mode, preferring to leave the bike in eMTB. This gives plenty of grunt for muscling up climbs, but doesn't feel uncontrollable. On steeper, more technical climbs, the power delivery while in boost mode can be a little abrupt, compromising the bike's traction. Compared to that Specialized Turbo Levo SL and its Turbo SL 1.2 motor with only 320 watts of max assistance and 50 Nm of torque, the difference is really stark. The Canyon feels much peppier and has a distinct performance advantage. It's very impressive given the Canyon, even in cheaper CF7 form, is lighter and cheaper than the Levo SL alloy. Speaking of weight and at a claimed 2 kg for the Bosch SX motor and a far lighter 400 watt-hour battery, you'll save a chunk of weight on bikes equipped with a system like the Neuron ONfly over a full-fat eMTB. My CF9 test bike weighed a claimed 19.9 kg, nearly 3 kilos lighter than the more powerful, bigger battery Performance Line CX equipped Neuron On CF8. But what about range? On my first ride, I found the range to be pretty adequate. I left the bike mostly in the middle eMTB mode as I said, and over the course of around 14 miles or 22 kilometers, with 2,500 feet or 750 meters of climbing, I had just under 30% battery left. That's without the optional 250 watt-hour range extender as well, so you should have plenty of juice for a solid ride around, though I'm keen to test its range capabilities further when I have the bike back here in the UK. So it has the power, it is relatively light, has decent range, and in the case of the Neuron ONfly, you're getting a pretty good value package compared to the competition. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? There's a few catches though. The system is not without its faults. To access that mountain of power, it demands a high cadence riding style. Compared to the Performance Line CX motor and others which generate their maximum assistance at lower cadence from around 70 RPM, the SX requires you to be more active with your pedaling. You really can't forget about your gear choice with this motor. You need to be active on the bike and prepared to put some work in. For some, this might be a negative, but as a rider who spins a higher cadence on a non-eMTB, I appreciated that ride feel. For those used to the more relaxed cadence of a full-fat eMTB though, be prepared to change your riding style a bit. I also found the motor to be particularly noisy. It's definitely more audible than Specialized Turbo SL 1.2 motor, with a more pronounced whirring as you pedal around. Not only that, but there is a proper, and I mean proper, rattle from inside the motor. I'm not really sure what causes it, but this isn't the only bike I've experienced it on, and I know others have noted it too. It sounds like a chain rattling around on a carbon frame, and it can be a proper clacking noise on rougher descents. I did find it a bit unnerving in all honesty, but it doesn't seem to affect performance. It is definitely distracting though, and something I'll be watching during my time with the bike. Like some other lightweight eMTBs as well, the battery is integrated into the frame, meaning you'll have to remove the motor if you want to take it out to charge. You better have electricity in your garage then, or permission from your better half to charge your filthy electric bike indoors. The SX Motor is the powerhouse behind the Neuron ONfly's riding experience, but what about the rest of the bike? Well, over the 2 days at the launch, it felt pretty dialed on the trail. The geometry is right in the ballpark for a modern trail bike, with a 64.5-degree head angle, 485mm reach on the size large, a steepish 76.5-degree seat angle, and lengthy 450mm chainstays. The bike feels stable at speed and rips through corners as well as my skills and bravery allowed. The 635mm stack height felt pretty good too. I never felt like my weight was being pitched too far forward over the bars. The bottom bracket sits just 340mm from the ground as well, which no doubt helps the cornering on rails feeling. I'm definitely excited to spend more time on the bike and really unlock its cornering potential. One thing to note though is my test bike came supplied with different tyres than stock. A super soft compound super trail casing Schwalbe Magic Mary was fitted up front. The rear tyre on my bike is the same Schwalbe hand stamp as production bikes will have up front. Taking the hand stamp's place out back on production bikes will be a Schwalbe knobby nick, but quite honestly, I'd be fitting that Magic Mary up front if the choice was mine. The extra grip is well worth the slight reduction in rolling speed. Suspension is taken care of by RockShox Pike Select Plus fork and Deluxe Select Plus rear shock. The shock is also found on the base CF7 and is one area of the spec I'm not exactly sold on. Granted, I had very limited time with the bike, but I didn't find a sweet spot with the rear end and it felt tauter and less plush than I'd expect of a 140mm travel bike. I went on the launch with no information on the bike whatsoever, and from the first ride I'd have sworn it had around 130mm of travel like the regular non-assisted Neuron. The bike's geometry seems to let the bike cash checks the rear end can't, so I'll be playing around with pressures, rebound settings and volume spaces to see what I can eke out from that little deluxe when I have more time to play around with it. I have a feeling though it would be better suited to a piggyback equipped Super Deluxe. Elsewhere though, the spec is dialed and I have few complaints. There's an adequately wide 780mm wide bar and long travel dropper posts throughout the range. Even the size small gets a 170mm drop post, with a 200mm post on medium and large and a whopping 230mm of drop on the XL. The little chain guide on the frame kept the chain in check, and there's a ton of well-designed chain slap and frame protection. I'm not a fan of the headset routed cables, but that just seems to be the way a lot of the industry is heading. It gives a very clean look, and perhaps it'll drive enough home mechanics wild that it'll keep smaller bike shops in business with the costs needed to replace something as simple as a gear or dropper post cable. Now, I have to admit, I'm actually a bit of a skeptic when it comes to electric mountain bikes. Yes, I get the appeal, but for me, I just find the full-fat variety too heavy to be fun to ride for my weedy little arms. I like to be part of the equation, feel my legs burning, and that's why, generally speaking, I stick to non-assisted trail and cross-country bikes. The Neuron ONfly though, that might have me changing my tune a bit. From first impressions, I don't think it's perfect by any stretch of the imagination. The rattle from the motor is very annoying. The rear shock could perhaps do with some more tuning and beefing up a bit, and I don't think the tyres on production bikes are as well suited to how hard the bike can be ridden. And it's not cheap, even in base form. But I do think it offers a whole lot of performance for a wide range of riders and shows a glimpse of the future of electric bikes. That Bosch SX Motor is a noisy but impressive performer, and if 3 to 5 years from now bikes pack this much punch and are even lighter, then maybe even the most die-hard masochistic e-bike holdouts like me might be converted. Given that, Canyon's popularity and reputation for good value, and this might actually be the most important bike we review this year. But come on, what do you think? Do you think bikes like this show a glimpse of the future? Let me know in the comments, and if you want to check out our thoughts on another cutting edge e-bike motor, then give this video a watch.